meeting to order. It's pretty close. Somebody comes in and then if they won't miss anything. I'd like to welcome everyone to our continuation meeting of our November the 7th regular meeting, and we've just got a few agenda items. The first one for consideration is the presentation on Little Tennessee Watershed from Franklin to Fontana. Miss Andrea Leslie. Come forward, Miss Leslie, and talk to us.
I will. Can you all see that on your monitors?
Yeah. Yep.
Great. Well, thank you for allowing me to come and speak to you about this local watershed planning effort that's been occurring for the last 3 years. I've got a lot to share with you, and I'm going to try to keep it short because I know you've got a lot of tough business ahead of you tonight. This local watershed planning effort was an effort on by a number of people working together to try to develop a watershed plan that will restore and protect stream health while addressing community concerns. So we try to really make this plan something that's useful to local people, people in the Soil and Water Conservation District, the town planner, county staff, local nonprofits, so that it was something that it's something that a lot of people can pull from. I'm an aquatic biologist. I work for the Department of Environment and Natural Resources of North Carolina. I work for a program called an Ecosystem Enhancement Program. And it's a non-regulatory program, and we basically build stream and wetland restoration and protection projects across the state to mitigate for impacts to streams and wetlands. Some of the things that we've done locally have been, there's a large stream restoration project on Cat Creek that's about a mile long, and that's becoming established and stabilized as we speak. And we were part of the consortium of folks who put funding into preserving the Needmore Tract and put it into game lands. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is the kind of work we do ahead of time, ahead of putting stream restoration in the ground, ahead of doing these protection projects, to try to understand watershed needs and put projects in the ground where they're going to make the most difference for a watershed. And we do this through our local watershed plans. You can see there that circle is around the Franklin to Fontana area. It's one of over 30 planning efforts across the state, so you're not alone. We've done a lot. We've been doing this work for about 8 years. What I'm calling Franklin to Fontana is basically all the land and streams that drain to the Little Tennessee River and Lake Emery between the Palisadia River all the way down to Lake Fontana. So that includes much of the town of Franklin, it includes Cat and Rabbit Creek, Iola, Cowee, Burningtown, Sawmill. Most of it's in Macon County, but there's a small portion of it in Swain County as well. Why we choose this area? We chose it because it's just an amazing place. It's incredibly rich in terms of biological diversity. There are a number of rare, threatened, and endangered species that a lot of people are trying to study and trying to understand. It's a really amazing place, as you know. You live and work here. Of course, here's the shining jewel of the entire area. It's the Little Tennessee River itself. This is heading through Needmore. It's obviously a place where a lot of people value as far as fishing and boating and swimming and playing. So what makes Little Tennessee River so special is there's a lot of forested land, a lot of feeder streams in the Little Tennessee River that drain both public and privately forested land. Of course, there's just a rich heritage of farming, as there is here in Cowee, I'm showing you, and the town of Franklin. Of course, you know, what you are stuck with as decision makers, your tough job is trying to encourage and embrace development and change while protecting those things that you hold dear, the cultural heritage, the natural heritage of this area. And so I wanted to tell you who my partners were. I worked with a local advisory committee for the last 3 years of about 25 people. This local advisory committee was composed of a number of different local government folks, including your town planner, folks in Macon County government, a professor at Western, local conservation organizations such as the Land Trust for Little Tennessee and Little Tennessee Watershed Association, a number of different folks who had interest and expertise in planning and natural resources. And what they did was they helped us develop assessment and planning objectives for this effort. They helped, in some cases, they did a lot of field work and helped us do the work themselves. And then they identified some of the on-the-ground project recommendations and planning recommendations that I'll talk to you about. Just a quick overview of what we spent about 2 years doing was we really tried to understand how healthy streams are in this watershed. Where streams are not healthy, what's the cause? What sorts of pollution are causing the fish community, the aquatic invertebrate community to be out of balance? Is habitat sufficient? Are streams stable? This is an overview of ecological condition or stream condition by chunks of land. We divided this watershed up into small sub-watersheds and then kind of judged overall health with a number of different pieces of information. And all of the areas that are green are basically doing very well. They're in good condition. Those areas in yellow are moderate, and those that are in red are in poor condition. So you can see the town of Franklin there is in a red area. The headwaters of Cat and Rabbit Creek and Iowa are also in poor condition. So what we did was we focused our study efforts on those yellow areas and those red areas. Now boil it all down for you. We named a number of key stressors or problems that drive where streams are not doing well, that drive those streams to a poor condition. And they're listed here. Lack of woody riparian vegetation, or lack of streamside woody vegetation, like a buffer. Channel modification, which basically means ditching and dredging and moving streams. When you do that, you're basically usually digging the stream down deeper, causing the stream to be less stable. It's going to erode out stream banks and really degrade habitat for fish and wildlife. Excess sediment, which is one of the main big pollutants across the state. Too much sediment, too much sand and silt in the stream. Excess nutrient inputs from fertilizers, from cows that are in the stream, from leaky septic tanks. Bacterial contamination, stormwater runoff, and then tomato pesticides and barriers to fish passage. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about those 4 stressors that are circled. So here's the town of Franklin and an area that we did a lot of analysis on here. This is most of the developed area of Franklin. It drains to Crawford Branch and some other streams. And all of the streams here that you see are orange. Those all have minimal buffer. They have very little woody vegetation to help those streams stay stable. This is Crawford Branch. You can see it doesn't, it's basically mowed down to the bank. And one of the consequences of that can be unstable banks, like you see these eroding banks. What's the benefit of a streamside buffer or woody vegetation? Well, stream bank stability is just basically the best thing to hold stream banks in place. Shade, so that our mountain streams can stay cooler and host trout and other mountain species. Buffers are really good at filtrating pollutants that are coming off the land. Nutrients, pesticides, metals, they're just, and sediments, they're just great at that. And they also, all that wood and all those leaves kind of, they serve as a food source or the engine for the entire food web of a mountain stream. Another key stressor or problem that I wanted to talk a little bit more about is sedimentation, mud, silt, sand. Of course, you know that with a lot of sediment, you can see muddy water during storm events, and that's it doesn't look good. But there's also a state standard that if a stream is muddy enough, it can exceed a state standard and put that stream on an impaired streams list. It also smothers fish habitat, fish and wildlife habitat. What are the main sources here of sedimentation? Well, eroding stream banks, disturbed land that hasn't been stabilized, landslides, and eroding roads and driveways. I'll talk to you a little bit more about Crawford Branch, which drains most of the downtown. You can see it here in a little park upstream of downtown. So you see these two dots here, the green dot and that orange dot. Those are on Crawford Branch. Crawford Branch is here if you follow my arrow. And it goes on through down and dumps into Lake Emery. Crawford Branch drains the main part of downtown, and between those two dots is Main Street and most of the downtown. That upper dot, that green dot, that upstream dot, we sampled aquatic insects, which are a really great gauge of long-term water quality, and they were rated good. But downstream, less than a mile downstream, they were rated fair, which means impaired. The stream is going to be on that state list of impaired waters next year because of that information. Well, what's going on? What's going on is stormwater stressors. So when it rains, you all are familiar with this. It rains, the water hits that ground, the rooftops, and it carries with it all the pollutants that have built up on those surfaces and goes right into the storm drain, great, untreated, into Crawford Branch. And that stormwater has such force and such volume that it scours out habitat, scours out wildlife and fish themselves, and it really deepens the channel and destabilizes it. So it's really important, now that we know that this is an issue across the country, for us to build more responsibly and try to control that stormwater. The last problem I wanted to talk to you is fecal bacteria contamination. Fecal coliform bacteria are basically indicators of human and animal waste. And we sampled streams across the watershed and focused in on streams for these bacteria where levels were high. And we found levels above the state standard through continued sampling in 8 streams. So the streams in red you see there. One of those is Crawford Branch. And you might wonder, well, why should we be concerned about Crawford Branch? Nobody fishes in there. Well, you can't really keep kids out of streams. And I took that picture just 2 weeks ago, these kids in Crawford Branch. So it's important for the health of the community. All right, so I want to talk to you quickly about a few recommendations we made in our watershed plan. This plan basically makes a number of recommendations to try to solve the problems that we saw and also protect those streams and those areas that are functioning well, that are really important and doing well. You have a 5-page summary that Mike provided to you, and it has this table. This is the last on page 5. There are 36 recommendations that we made. It's a lot of recommendations. And I'm just going to talk to you about a few of them. But they're divided into 4 types. The first is conservation projects. And we spent a lot of time with a number of folks with Soil and Water Conservation District, with Mike Gruberman, with Little Tennessee Watershed Association, with a bunch of folks who do on-the-ground work to try to determine what are the most important areas to restore and protect. So we have a number of voluntary projects that can be put on the ground if landowners are interested. The second chunk of recommendations are policy and institutional measures, and those are where you all can make a difference, and I'll talk to you about that a little bit later. It's about, these measures are working with existing regulations so that we can make a difference as far as addressing the problems that we saw on the ground, and also tweaking or developing new ordinances or rules or programs. We have developed a really good start for an education initiative. Of course, that's really where the future lies, you know, trying to help children and adults do things differently so that they have the way that they work and they play has less impact on aquatic resources. And then we finally have a set of research and assessment activities to help us answer questions that we weren't able to answer during this 3-year effort. All right, so here are some key things that I want to talk about that where you all, as decision makers, can make a difference. The town of Franklin has its UDO. It does, you know, a good job of trying to address some of these stormwater issues we were talking about. And what we do is we encourage you to evaluate your town regs to further promote stormwater management, planting and protection of stream-side buffers, especially wooded buffers, not just grassy buffers, and protection of the floodplain, and then just good housekeeping on the part of local businesses and government complexes so that pollutants are kept out of the water. The second thing is to work with local groups to develop a robust environmental education program. The Little Tennessee Watershed Association is starting with some of the recommendations that we made as far as the environmental ed program goes, trying to develop some fact sheets for landowners on what they can do on their land to lessen their impacts and improve the health of their streams on their land. And they're trying to get going with this, and we see that what is really needed is the collaboration of a number of different folks to make this into a larger program. The third is to work with the North Carolina Division of Water Quality to pinpoint sources of fecal coliform bacteria contamination in the Crawford branch. We did a little work there to try to identify the sources of fecal coliform bacteria contamination, but we were unable to find smoking guns. So the Division of Water Quality is very willing to work with the town staff to try to do a little more investigation, illicit discharge and elimination study. So they're ready and willing to work with y'all to find that those sources of contamination. And then the final is to support and promote the construction of stormwater best management practices in the town. And we've got something great to help you with that. We developed an atlas of potential stormwater best management practices. Stormwater best management practices are things like rain gardens, stormwater detention areas. And we developed a set of about 40 different practices that can be put in the ground at over 20 sites. And we prioritized about 16 of them, exactly 16 of them. They all fall on public land, these can be put in the ground to lessen impacts and provide a good demonstration. And I'm going to give you one example. There were 7 different practices that were developed for the Franklin High School. Here's Franklin High School. And you can see these different green areas are schematics of where these best management practices could be put in the ground that will treat roof runoff, drive runoff, parking lot runoff. And here's just a little schematic. This is runoff coming from off the front of the building and the front drive. Right now it just goes down that flume and through that riprap and then down into the storm drain. But This is a kind of an artist's rendering. What's envisioned is you could have kind of a two-stage practice there to control pollutants and detain the water, using basically a vegetated waterway here and then an extended detention basin here. So, as you know, lots of these things take money. And where does the money come from? Well, this plan, this Franklin to Fontana plan, is a great start. A lot of funding sources recognize the plans that we develop as good foundations, and there have been a number of really great investments that have been made by funders of the specific programs and projects that we recommend in our local watershed plans. That picture there is a stormwater wetland that's being constructed in the town of Lenore. The Clean Water Management Trust Fund gave us $300,000 to build that, and that was a part of the watershed plan. This local advisory committee is a great resource, and I'm going to be getting together with a subset of those folks and start as an implementation committee. We're going to get to work on prioritizing some of these recommendations and try to put them in the ground. And so I try to show you that there are a number of different kinds of recommendations that we made, and everybody has to do their part in different ways to really try to restore some of these streams and protect them. And that's it. If you have any questions, I'm here.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you have any idea of what type action would need to be performed down at Memorial Park? I see where you've got an idea on the high school over there, and I can understand that. Can't quite understand Memorial Park because of the lay of the land down there.
Well, we actually have a schematic in the plan. The plan's online, of a number of small best management practices that could treat the parking lot runoff without taking much of the parking lot at all. So you can take a look at it in the plan.
What about where the creek's eroding there? There are several places down there.
Well, planting woody vegetation along the creek will help a lot.
Maybe leveling it down a little bit more instead of a direct drop off.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Good presentation. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for accommodating us with our schedule.
No problem. And I'm here as a resource if you want to talk about this anymore.
All right, we'll move on now to agenda item number 3, board consideration on the following: Verizon wireless cell tower special use application. We're at the point now that the board is going to presumably do what boards need to do. I'm opening it up for discussion or whatever.
Mr. Mayor, I have put before each of the aldermen and yourself, sir, a set of proposed findings of fact to the effect that the application is incomplete and that therefore the town lacks jurisdiction to approve the application. I believe that to be the purpose of holding this meeting over until this day from 2 weeks ago, and nothing about the application has changed in that time. So that would be my recommendation to the group.
Motion?
Mr. Mayor, can we say just not about the hearing, but just about the protocol that was just presented? Could we address that just briefly, maybe?
Well, I'll hear from you.
Thank you.
But not about the hearing.
I understand. Just about the action being taken now.
Well, if it's, I'm going to be very briefly here. Tell me just very briefly what you're talking about, but it may be out of order.
Well, we'd like to just discuss, just have an opportunity to comment on the record as to what the proper procedure should be for final disposition of this application. Because we believe we know what the town is prepared to decide, and we believe it's improper, we'd just like an opportunity to respond to that.
You're suggesting it is improper procedurally
Procedurally, yes,
because,
because the ordinance, two ordinances in the towns, the UDO and the particular telecommunications siting ordinance that's at issue, both require final action on the application after the public hearing. Specifically, section 154.15 of the town's telecommunications siting ordinance states that the town shall schedule public hearings once it finds the application is complete.
and that's what we're finding is incomplete.
Completeness would be a prerequisite to the public hearing. The public hearing has taken place, and now we have to move forward to section 154.16C, which says after the public hearing, the town may approve with conditions, or deny the permit. There's not an option for dismissal. And also, under the Unified Development Ordinance, the UDO, section 4.4.9 states that after the public hearing, the board shall, not may, shall act on the application, and that action shall be one of the following: approval of conditions, or denial. So it's our position that the town must take action and vote on the merits of the application tonight.
Well stated, well stated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Mr. Mayor, I have, board finds it's an incomplete application, then decisions of the courts of this state tell you that you have to also find that you have no jurisdiction to approve. And that's my recommendation.
Their argument is that the finding that it's a complete application has been made before now. I mean, I believe that to be the.
It has to be. Under the ordinance, we don't even get to the community meeting if we're not complete. It's a prerequisite.
The ordinance could perhaps be clearer.
Yes, I'm sorry, there is one other section I'd like to reference, which is also talking about the completeness issue. And that's section 4.4.6 of the UDO. It says the completion date is either, number one, the date of receipt of all the information requested by the land use administrator, or number two, the date that written notice is received from the applicant that no further information will be provided. One of those two determines the completion date, and Verizon Wireless on several occasions has provided written notice to the town planner, that no further information will be provided, and that we need to move forward with scheduling public hearings, which was done by the town.
So you believe by your actions, you say, we're not suing you no more, that makes it complete?
That's what the ordinance says, sir.
I'm just curious from a strategic standpoint, if you all would prefer incomplete application or rejection of the application. I'm just trying to figure it out from your all standpoint where you'd rather be.
I think at this point, we have to request that the town take action, that they vote, the town take a vote on the merits of the application, and proceed with one of the three options that's permitted under its own ordinance: approval with conditions, or denial. Because if we appeal and go to court and find that the application is complete, we're gonna have to start this process back over. So I think at this point, we'd rather just have the final decision on the merits of the application.
Mr. Mayor, our consultant was involved, I believe, with the drafting of some of this legislation. I wonder if he has any thoughts on this particular question and the drafting of our ordinance.
Thank you very much, John. Mayor, board members. Obviously, y'all can do whatever you please. We cannot give you a recommendation based on the language of your ordinance as regards whether the 140-foot tower, i.e. the variance, should be granted or not. We don't have the information that's required under your ordinance as regards proof of need, that there needs to be 140-foot.
Wait, we're not going there. No.
We simply don't have the information on which to make a recommendation.
All right. based upon what we're hearing, is your recommendation change? Yeah, motion.
Based on council's recommendation, I move that we adopt the findings that have been given to us and that the application is incomplete, that the town, thereby had no jurisdiction to approve the application.
Discussion among the board. All in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. Okay. Got one more item on the agenda. Won't take too long. You want to take a minute or two, let it break down here, or move on?
Great.
Yeah. All right. Looks like we're down to 5.
All right.
Truck route discussion. Ruberman.
Okay, we have, I've received a map that's attached to your packet that shows the routes that will be used for the truck. And one of the things that we have to do, and we have already set up a date for the next board meeting, is to have a public hearing on this. The county, or not the county, but NCODOT said, because this was our request to make this change in the truck routing, that we had to hold a public hearing, and they weren't going to hold it. So the public notice I attached with you, to you, I tried to explain exactly what we were looking to do, what the town was looking to do as I understood it in this process, as far as primarily eliminating or otherwise restricting through commercial trucks on Wyatt Street between Porter and Depot. And they required that we put the SR numbers in there so the streets could be easily identified. So we kind of know that, but in that process, we have to know what kind of truck and make a decision on what kind of truck we're really talking about banning. So part of the thing that we've got to look at is how do we want to do that? We've got restrictions by weight, by the number of axles, the total vehicle length, or if we wanted to just ban semis or limit semis, but trailer length. In talking to Reuben Moore, who's an engineer with DOT, we discussed the probability that probably the easiest to enforce would be just saying any trucks 3 axles or more are prohibited. That way, somebody with a pickup truck, the UPS delivery trucks, the FedEx, all of the normal general type of delivery trucks would be 2 axles or less. No, not 2 axles or less. I could see some, we don't want to ban wheelbarrows.
What about ton trucks with trailers? Would that still be, would that be eliminated, or?
If they're 2 axle, if they're 2 axle, they would be allowed under that.
But that's 3 axles.
Under that premise. Well, we're talking about
Yeah.
we're talking about the truck.
And not any and not any trailer.
We can probably say combination vehicles would be prohibited.
Ooh,
But
man, wait.
2 axles or more, they'll effectively, or 3 axles or more. It's been a long day. Having the 3 axles, the axle count, if it's greater than that, then they should be able to enforce that, I believe.
So there's not many semis anymore which are just 2 axles.
No, those are pretty well limited. The tractor itself most semi-tractors are 3 axle.
Most of them are,
Yeah.
right?
There's a very few city delivery that are 2 axle tractors. And those usually have smaller, or pull in a smaller trailer.
Right.
So, you know, if you get a 20-foot trailer behind that, that's a toss-up.
So you do have some 3 axle RV units that would, I mean, we're not talking about.
No, we're talking about commercial trucks.
Just
The way this is worded is through
Not private.
commercial vehicles, which is intended, we cannot stop somebody who's got a delivery, a moving van that's got a delivery to an address on that road, or has to use that road to get to the address. There's no way we can deny that. But we can deny some guy that's just trying to get through town and figures he's got a shortcut by buzzing down Wyatt to get over to, back to 441. Those trucks we can stop, which is what Derek's big complaint is.
Unless he goes by Derek's and blows a Jake brake, and then we'll let him do it.
That would make for a big sign.
Mike, process-wise, is this the kind of thing where if the town asks the DOT for signs and enforcement, they'll do it? We don't have to adopt an ordinance to that effect?
No, they will establish an ordinance. They will do the ordinance as long as we've had the public hearing. They will do whatever we say they need to do.
But then it will be an ordinance adopted by
DOT.
DOT.
And then they will, that way, because the issue I brought to them is that they'll throw up signs if we want them, but without having the ordinance, it doesn't get into the semi-maps, you know, the truck route maps. And we want to make sure that this is adopted by them to be mapped for the truck driver.
Yeah, because I think if you're only gonna have signs, you might as well not do anything.
Yeah. And one of the other, now obviously the rest has been basically worked out. The only other question that I had was, it would appear, since we're taking Harrison out of the mix by moving 28, and they seem to think that that's already been resolved, that we don't need to really do anything on Harrison. But the question would then be, do we want to implement something to reduce the amount of traffic that's going through Palmer and Main Street in the downtown area? If we don't necessarily need to do that, then we can take that part of this out. But we do have the routing for the truck that's coming south on 28 that wants to get to 441, either way. He can head north or south. And if he wants to continue on 28, he would come down to Main Street, turn left, and go over to Highlands and turn right. So those are the routings that we're looking at, and that, you know, we feel comfortable enough to, and that was my question, basically, that started this, is how do we want to establish the restriction on Wyatt, and do we want to also restrict that through traffic off of Palmer and Main Streets through the downtown area?
I know we have trouble on Palmer and Main Street, but there are so many different vehicles that cause a problem up there, that can cause a problem. And I think probably maybe do the first stage and then look at the other.
Okay, Wyatt.
Then Wyatt and then look at the other.
Yeah.
Because there on Main Street, you've got certain size trucks.
So we're talking about the ones coming up from Georgia, Mike, following here.
Right.
Aren't we diverting them all through trucks, or aren't we diverting them basically all?
On the bypass.
On the
They should head
bypass.
on the bypass.
Okay, so
And with the new 28, I mean, they're gonna go to the bypass, get off at Down Mountain,
yeah.
Wells Grove, Depot Street, and north.
Well,
into
then what's the
28.
question about Palmer Street then?
But if we shut them off, going down Way Street, and they're in town, then they're gonna go
And then we go right down Main Street.
down Palmer Street.
Downtown.
Then they basically have to go down Palmer Street.
So then we just diverted it to Commerce, and we may need to take a step from Commerce.
But if we
Well,
shut them
no,
off at the
Palmer.
4 lane, how are they gonna get to the Chamber of Commerce?
Well, I'm talking about if they do. I mean, the ones coming from Georgia,
Right.
that come straight on into town.
The ones that come straight into town, but then we can't stop that because that's local delivery.
No, but if they do come on across and they find out they can't go down Way Street,
Well, isn't it more important for us just to keep the ones that are going through town, keep them on the 4 lane and around, than it is those ones who have to come into town to make, and once they come into town, are we then gonna restrict them from other streets as well? Is that what we're talking about?
Well, that was the question, because I wasn't sure if that was the intent, is to reduce that traffic in that area also.
Well, we'd be reducing it by diverting them
At the 4-lane.
at the 4-lane, right?
Yeah, because the truck route maps, and that's the purpose of this, would create that routing for those connections. So their maps would show that as a truck route, and they would be able to calculate their routes off of that. I mean, conceivably, we can have somebody get off at Dial Mountain, come around and drive through town to pick up cigarettes or something, and then turn east on Main Street and continue back onto 441. So, you don't know what their actual intentions are. But
It's a lot better than it used to be
Already?
already. It's,
What's caused it to get better?
there's signage, they've got
Yeah,
some signage
signage,
out
yeah.
for 28.
and I think that, I think probably too, the companies, the Shaw and those have directed their trucks.
Okay.
But you still have some that they'll take the shortcut.
So Sam, is the issue then, do we limit this to those two routes coming in from the north on 28 or coming up from the south on 441 and get them all going around through Dial Mountain that way? Is that what we're limiting it to, or are we doing that plus preventing them from going on Hawaii or
Well,
all?
and they're also preventing backflow coming up from Depot Street to the west, through town to the west.
Why would we want to do that?
Well, again, through trucks, you don't want diverting off of the truck route coming through town.
But if they were through trucks, then they wouldn't be coming in that direction.
That's exactly what you want to discourage.
There's only people who
Again,
want to take
taking
shortcuts.
shortcuts.
That's a shortcut way.
Well, for instance, somebody.
It's a
coming-
truck route, it's a truck route.
It's a shortcut.
It's always been the truck route.
I know it's a truck route.
What I would suggest is that the board pick the minimum that you want to approach right now.
Mm-hmm.
Deal with that, and then come back at a later date to fine tune it.
Well, I was just thinking that we were just gonna divert them to go through Dial Mountain and around and down the Depot Street.
Oh, you mean just stop it at that?
That's what I was thinking.
Is that what
But you
you're?
eliminate, Wally Street, where that designation can be done, to get off on the 4-lane to go around.
Wait a minute,
I
I
think
didn't
do
know
one phase, do it one at a time.
that. But what do you consider what do you consider
Where
first
you do
phase?
you're diverting them off the White Street, they can go
That they can't go
down
on
the
there.
mountain and
So in other words, where you divert them at the 4-lane from the south, and you divert them and come up Depot Street Extension, Depot, and then out that way. I see what you're saying, yeah.
and then deal
Yeah.
with the other.
Yeah,
Just
we
get that
can,
done, and then deal with the other.
and
I'm with you now.
I've noticed that there's been less traffic on like Harrison, which was a concern earlier. But I didn't know if that was still a hot concern, because moving 28 from Harrison Avenue to Depot Street, that should have eliminated all of that traffic.
I still see some, but not as many.
But isn't this ordinance gonna make them turn their village trailer and come? It's not gonna let them go out.
No, they have no reason to do that, because if they want 28, they're gonna stay going north,
Right.
you know. If they've got an oops and they have a delivery in town, we can't stop them anyway.
So the Wally Street then would really be for the southbound trucks who would come up Depot Street to the press office and think, well, I can take a right and go up Wally and then head out that way quicker than I can out by,
Yeah,
and we don't wanna allow that.
that's correct.
That would be stopped.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the same thing, people that figure, okay, you know, I've got up here on 441, I don't wanna go through downtown, I'll cut Waya, and then go north on Depot. You know, they're gonna have to come up on Main Street, so, or on Powell.
Would you like to put that before the resolution?
Are we just, we're just deciding what's going to public hearing? Is that what we're doing?
We've got the public hearing, we gotta be in a position to tell DOT what we want from that public
But if
hearing.
they got a public hearing, Vernon's right, we're gonna have to be able to tell them kind of what we're promoting.
Right, this becomes the town's position as far as the public hearing.
And I think the motion should include that this will be called Hal Derrick's Law.
Yeah.
Derrick's Law.
Yeah.
You need to get
You
Sissy
do
in
well.
there
Well,
somewhere.
he told me that if we didn't address it, he was gonna run against me. You know, that's why I've got it on the agenda.
Well, Pat, usually at about 4 o'clock in the morning, they'll do the Jake break. You'll still get some of that.
So we know how the verbiage is, I think we all understand it, I don't wanna have to repeat it.
And is that anything we need to do as
Can you
far
do
as,
that, Berlin?
do we need to do it as a motion?
So we just nod?
Or do we need?
Probably ought to make it before we
Well,
adopt it.
I think it probably before you adopt, maybe after the public hearing, because if something comes up that you feel hot about, you might as well include that in your motion.
So at least it's gonna be the initial position of the town board as follows.
Yeah,
To take the public hearing.
right, that's what we're looking
And
at.
Okay.
then from that, you can.
Somebody then, when you get past the initial position of the town board to take the public hearing, somebody give us some words.
Okay, basically you want to eliminate traffic on Wyatt Street. There's less of a concern for Harrison Avenue now because of the rerouting of 28, so we can take that part out of this. This is what we're talking about.
The least amount of damage now, where that is.
Yeah, okay. Then that changes quite a bit of it, because when I sent this to him, he was asking about blocking the traffic on Harrison. And then that entails a whole different setup. So if we eliminate the Harrison Avenue part of that, then I think that will simplify it quite a bit. Because the routing that's here is the routing that is based on their map. So what they've mapped out, the third paragraph of the public notice. And we've given them the options on how they're gonna maneuver through town.
But what I'm confused about that, Jim, and I'm gonna tell you is, if we don't let them get past the 4 lane, why we worry whether they go down the truck route? If they're coming up from Georgia, and we don't let them get past the 4 lane, they're supposed to go right.
Yeah,
and
but
go that way.
that's still gonna be business 441, so, I mean, that's.
But the only ones that would come past the 4 lane would be the ones who had local deliveries.
Right.
And then they have to get to where their local delivery is. So
Right.
why,
If we had local delivery, can they not go down?
truck route,
Truck route?
any road, yeah. So why is it that we're doing this second stop whenever we've already caught them at the 2 places and only allow them one way through town each way? Why is that not enough?
Let me
Am I
ask,
confusing something?
well,
The key, to prevent a local delivery from using Wyatt Street with a 53-foot trailer.
yeah, let me.
That's the
let me ask
the
this question.
purpose,
I've
I
got
thought.
I'm coming up the street and I've got a delivery that needs to go to the Catholic Church. So I come on up and drop the Catholic Church and my next delivery is gonna be in Silver. So I just pop out of the Catholic Church parking lot, slip down to Warrior Street and head right on out. That's what we're trying to
Okay,
do,
yeah,
right?
you're
Right.
supposed to do that.
Okay.
Right. That's the purpose of banning the traffic on
Thank you,
Wyatt.
Bill.
Yeah, they have to
If
go
I've
there.
got, if I've got a drop off on Warrior,
That'd be different.
Katie bar the door.
Yeah,
Something different.
you've got the right to make that delivery, no matter what vehicle you got, you know.
That would help, if you do.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's
it
not
can-
bad down there.
Some have a bunch of rocks in the truck. But the-
Somebody give us a motion.
What we just said.
Okay,
So
basically,
Okay.
to eliminate, ban the, or otherwise restrict through commercial trucks on Wyatt Street, 3 axles or more. And then to eliminate the reference to Harrison Avenue.
And what about signage? Do we need to ask them? about
They're
signage?
gonna handle the signage, and you've got the signage layout that
Yeah,
they're
'cause
talking about on the map.
I'm with Joe, I especially want one, kick them off the bike, make sure they get on the bypass.
So what
Yeah.
would you?
And they'll want to, now that's a better place for them.
Yeah, we can have them put a 441 through trucks turn right here. And then, the more important thing is because it'll be an ordinance, it will be mapped. And they'll know what that route is.
Right.
And those truckers are used to signs.
Because if we just throw a sign up, if it's not on their map, they can take whatever route they want to take. So that was the bigger issue, because when I said we need it mapped, And he says, you gotta spell it out, and you gotta, so we can create an ordinance that gets on the map.
Janet, you got something for a motion?
Mayor, we want to do that first, sentence in paragraph 2, to eliminate or otherwise restrict through commercial trucks on Warrior Street, and put those numbers in between Porter Street and Depot, for trucks, commercial trucks with 3 axles or more. Is that it? Is that what you
Yeah,
want?
and basically that second sentence will go away.
Yeah, I'm just doing that first one. Is that right, John?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what
I've
we
got
need
it,
to
I've got it.
Then I'll make that a motion.
I'll second it.
Discussion, all in favor, raise your hand. Okay.
Okay.
No.
And then, if you look at paragraph 3, that's the routing that would be applied.
Summer, it's an important thing. I know you'll have it in more detail, I'm sure, at our meeting, but what is our meet and eat schedule for December? Because we're gonna add, aren't we gonna add one, Sissy? ABC, aren't we gonna try to, Sam mentioned something.
Yeah, that was one of the things I wanted to talk about was our meeting with the ABC board. My thought is to recommend to the aldermen that we schedule a dinner meeting with the ABC board so we can have a sit down and just discuss. The primary thing, of course, is the liquor store location. We have some new liquor store, ABC store, and the other issue is the ABC officer.
Okay, yes. Now, all right, but that said, it might be good to know when our other meetings, dinners are.
I've got a list compiled, I can kind of run it by you. I know the police departments will be December the 15th, that's Thursday, at 6.
No, Thursday.
Thursday at 6 at the Blue Ridge Roadhouse.
Okay.
And then
December 19th, for the fire department.
at 6:30.
Yes. And then, the
Public Works?
Public Works is December the 20th at 6. And then the luncheon for the employees will be December 16th noon. That's all we have.
Didn't you already send out an email to that?
I sent out an email, but I've also got a list I can stick in your boxes as well, that's hand
Let's
printed.
go ahead and send that out again.
So, then we need to do it sometime before the 15th, 16th, 19th, and 20th is.
Yeah.
Our next meeting is the 5th. Would we want to consider maybe on the 12th or something, that Monday after the meeting? I don't know, just throwing something
The
out.
second Monday, which is the 12th. It's open. Everybody check their schedules and see, then we'll set it up with the ABC.
And if y'all have any recommendations as to location and all, we obviously haven't made any decision on that.
We've already got Fat Betty's class.
Yeah, we don't want that, but it's, I was thinking about Livingston over on the north side myself, but
Reserve
it's,
section.
Yeah.
it's a possibility. All right. Sam hates me for this, but I'll give him an opportunity to wing
I've got
it,
something.
to wing it if they want to.
Alderman Scott has something and Alderman Curtis as well, but let me knock this out, it's just information. Relates back to a meeting we had with the county folks on the 17th. About a number of issues, but this one has to do with the Drake Road discussion.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, sir.
Won't charge you for it.
Basically, we had, I think, a good discussion about the Drake Road issue, and what we see here now is just more or less a status for where we are, and it's fully self-explanatory, so I'm just putting that out for you. And then Bob had an issue he wanted to bring up, which I sort of detest, and then Berlin had an issue that he wanted to bring up.
And I would like to bring up something.
Bob, what do you got?
I want to bring up the issue of the tablets, the iPads or the Samsung or something like that. We are generating huge amounts of paper. I think last.
We don't generate it, we just use it.
Well, we generate it. Some of us use it, and some of us look at our emails too, but, anyhow, if we went to the iPads or the Samsung, I prefer the iPad. Kevin is more inclined to the Samsung, but those are things that could be worked out if we approve it. But what we could do is we would get all the agenda items in a folder, all at the same time. They would be stored on here. If you ever needed to go back something, you don't have to wade through reams of paper that is stored somewhere in your house from back meetings. Any information, and another thing, after I talked to Kevin, it would probably save staff time as things are generated. Everything we generate's on a computer now anyhow, and if the media, if they want advanced agenda packets, they can be emailed out to y'all too. And it would just save a lot of paper, it would save a lot of staff time, and it would keep all of our past minutes on something that's about that thin and about 10 inches or maybe 7 inches, depending on the model that we get. And I think this is we're really behind times on this. I think just about all public bodies are using these now. And if somebody walks into a board meeting and want the agenda, there could still be a couple of paper copies. But I think this would be a good investment for the board. I know that Sam doesn't like it, but he is somewhat technologically challenged, I think.
You just paid help.
Huh?
You just paid help.
That's right. That's true. That's right. Serves at the will.
I told him that intelligence and technology challenge are not necessarily the same two things. But I would like to propose that we go with the iPads. You can go out to my truck right now and find about 3 months of paperwork still on the floor there where I left it. So,
Where's your iPod? Where'd you leave it?
my iPod, I know where that, if I had one, I know exactly where it would be. But there are just so many advantages to the instantaneous things that we can do with this. And Kevin would set it up for us and everything. But I don't think it would work unless we all agreed that this is the route we want to take.
So,
it's a good idea.
well, you're putting it out there for discussion, that's all we can do tonight. We can't vote on something that's not on the agenda. We didn't decide that a while back, but then we need to know some numbers, we need to know what,
I've got that. I've got it. The Apple iPad, and I like it because it's 3G, you can get those around $600. The Samsung, the 10-inch one is $449, and the 7-inch one is $399. Now those are basically the prices that people ordering them off the internet would be paying. But we could probably go through Verizon. I guess we could still go through Verizon.
We know what the county,
Sure about that.
Maybe not.
Bob, do we know what the county's getting? The
The county's getting, I think they're getting iPads. That's what I got the impression they were getting. Now Kevin likes the Samsung. I like the iPad because
he's just a plain petted boy.
I know it, but the Samsung, you have to go to a place like the town hall where you've got Wi-Fi. The iPads, you can go to Wi-Fi or anywhere you get cell phone service. And I think that's a big advantage.
But if it's a 3G, you've got to pay Verizon to do that.
That's correct.
This
It's
is Wi-Fi,
about,
you can connect anywhere.
that's anywhere that you've got
Wi-Fi
service. Yeah.
service, which is my house or my house.
Yeah. I think just about everybody now has got wireless.
I've got Wi-Fi.
But I would just I think it's great, let's say that, we've got a PowerPoint presentation within the agenda packet or something. It can be right there in front of us. But I'd like to know how the board feels, so I can come back at the December meeting with even more information. But I feel like that if the entire board is not on board, we really don't need to. Thank goodness Sam's not on the board. I know he would not go with it.
Well, I guess let me ask you this question, who would go? I mean, would it be just the alderman and the mayor, or would it be additional iPads, or?
I think it would just at this point, after I talked to Kevin, probably just the alderman and the mayor at this point. But I'm for key employees having it, that want it, or would need it. But we're not down here every day. And I like the idea of when something's generated, that it can come straight to the board, to the media, whoever has requested it. You know, we have to furnish agenda packets right now to anybody that requests it every month. So you've got to go up there and stand by the copy machine forever. Would I go ahead and volunteer to use Sam's iPad? Oh, yeah, and I think our attorney should probably be one too.
Bob, would these be ones that we would take home with us?
Absolutely, yes. That's the whole purpose of it, yeah.
For what it's
worth, the school board does have, they have laptops.
Besides obstinance and ignorance, is there any other good reason not to go towards it?
The thing about the iPads and the Samsung Galaxies, they are taking the place of laptops. Laptops are gonna be a dinosaur here right after I bought a new one. It's gonna be a dinosaur. Really, because you can do everything with these tablets you can do with a laptop.
High school teachers have
I heard that. All the teachers call it. No kidding. I heard that.
Yeah, that's right. I tell you, forget them.
All these key staff.
He's poking at his right now.
It won't take 5 minutes.
So the nice thing about it is we can track all of it.
Yeah, they all have GPS tracking on them,
So we'll be able to tell where all of you are all the time.
I would like to just say I am for it, then if we can just see if everybody's for it, and then we can come back next week.
Yeah. If everybody doesn't want one, I don't see the point in pursuing it.
Is there anybody who doesn't want it?
Other than Sam.
Drug
I
kicking
think
and
there's some of them
screaming.
that don't feel real secure with it, you
Yeah,
know,
I'm not-
as far as.
Using them, and then keep coming in and
Mine,
saying,
I don't feel secure with
I'm
anything.
not-
and then I'll ask you.
Yeah, that'd be wise.
I just think that-
I'm not there yet.
Really? But I'm not saying, we're not saying that we don't need to be there. We're just saying we ain't there yet.
You know,
Have y'all ever heard of cell phones? You might want to look into that someday.
No, but I'm getting a push button real quick.
Well, I'll definitely go. I've got a real cheap version of it. And I don't know why I bought a new laptop when I can reset it, and I've almost learned to use my iPhone. The cell phone almost is.
They're easier to use than
Yeah.
a cell phone, frankly.
You know what the service costs them?
I do not. The Samsung, there is no.
There's no service.
Listen,
Wi-Fi.
if you bought 8 or 10, and if it turns out either this existing board or a new member gets loaned, don't want to use one, they don't have to, but I bet you somebody around the office or on this employee of the town could use it, you know what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we won't do it unless we're forced.
And nobody's gonna force you to do
Well,
it.
I mean
I know what you
voluntarily, because I think it's just, we just gotta push us into it.
You may be getting this out of.
Well, I think it's time to do away with the mimeograph machine.
Mimeograph.
Or maybe that little pan where you put that Jello-like stuff in there with the purple, you remember those?
Vernon, what you got?
Well, let me comment on Bob's on that. Is this a finger touch thing you keep?
It does, or you can get a very inexpensive keyboard that attaches to it. You can answer your emails right back. It's just like a laptop.
It's got a keyboard that comes up on it, just like your cell phone.
Block sender.
I just want to know,
If somebody's mastered
I
the
don't
essential
have to
part.
turn the light off on the microwave.
Well, now, if you can run a microwave, you can run
That's right.
jets.
Okay,
Right.
but I try one.
Okay, well, I'll get with Kevin and I'll have a presentation in December.
Make copies for everybody.
Oh, well. And I've got,
You may be our last copy, it'll be so sad.
oh,
Okay, then I'll get my point then. I'd like for the board to instruct John Bose to send a letter to Diener to find out what their outline is to do the dredging and the cleanup work that was agreed to for the 30-year license that they now have.
When
Just
did Duke agree to do that?
before in their clean water part of the program, before they got the license.
Is there something, I mean, is there something in writing that we can hold them to?
Yes, it's in the agency reviews
Yeah.
from state and federal agencies.
Just to start something in the ballpark that we don't sit here 10 years and wait for them back. Sometimes the agencies get a little slow unless you jog their memory that we're behind it.
well, I have a little bit of a concern about this dredging of the lake. After talking to Bill McLaurin, I'm a little concerned about what's in that mud. And he's concerned about it and where the dredging might harm downriver. But until we do something, south on the Little Tennessee, this dredging problem is going to just continue until people quit ruining the stream banks south of us. And I totally am in agreement with Verlin on all of this, except for I'd like to see more study on the impact of the dredging.
Well, part of the reports from way back when they started this licensing thing, the study said that there were no known contaminants in there. Of course, John says that can be determined very quickly by taking some core samples.
And I think there should be some core samples, because I'd like to satisfy my concern over the dredging.
Okay, but now procedurally, I just put Bob off short by explaining to him, I thought it was understanding of the board that for matters that weren't on the agenda, we couldn't take formal action on.
We could, however, go ahead and request that John give us a draft to review for the board to adopt and then forward on, let's say the December meeting, if that meets everybody's.
Motion?
Second.
Second. Further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Anything else?
Sir,
Yes.
while we were having all this Verizon stuff, I've gotten numerous calls from a lot of people on Green Street, talking to me, and almost every one of them voiced concern about the condition of Green Street, how bad it's getting, how slummy it's getting, and that, as several people have said, we know it's not the town's job necessarily, but they're saying almost the whole majority now on Green Street are renters instead of owners. There is a couple, I've told them that they could call Mr. Brueggemann, that we now have an ordinance, that if there's rats or there's something that,
Right.
you know, that we now have this. And they're also saying there's a lot of suspicious activity of things happening at night. A lot of cards and whatever, and you know.
Not the Green Street I've ever known.
Yeah, I know, but,
That's quotable.
yeah. So I don't know what we need to do, but I told them I would voice their concern. They're just starting to feel a little uncomfortable in their neighborhood.
But you're correct in that we do have maybe some tools now.
Right. I told them that if they don't pick up the phone and complain, we don't know about it, so.
Right, okay. Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
So we.
All in favor, raise your hands. Okay. All right, good meeting.
I was very serious.